Settlements in peril, the price for human negligence. Down along the shores of the sea is this typical slum zone called Jamestown, Ishona. Almost every building situated here is in the form of kiosks and made up of wood. The rooms are small in nature and can hardly serve its purpose of housing all the members of the household. And look at this. This is the roofing of the entire room. As soon as I stretch my hand, I meet both corners of the room. This is how bad it can be. This is all they have to live in. During midnight and at dawn, when I visited the community, residents, including children, were taking shelter in the open, sharing spaces with animals, obviously avoiding using small spaces with many others. This is how some of these people spend the night. It's about 12 midnight right now. Look at this. These are young people. Just by them, there's a dog also, sleeping around, probably guarding them. Just today, as I speak with you, 11 people, including children, have lost their lives at a shaman after a heavy downpour. If you have people sleeping outside in the open, where there's been flooding already, there's been a lot of water everywhere, and these children sleeping in the open, and then you can imagine the dangers. If these kids were in school, you can imagine what this condition in which they find themselves will have on their performances at school. For the health implications on these young ones, your guess may be as good as mine. It had rained the night before my visit today, and this wooden structure that is supposed to house Mr. and Mrs. Okaim, two elderly folks in this community, has almost become a mini island on its own. The near washed-away structure is surrounded with mud stagnant water, awaiting Mr. and Mrs. Okaim today, after they sought refuge somewhere else during the rains last night. But today they have no option but to sleep in their cherished home.
Carpenter.
What does Madame do? Okay. That is what this family does, and this is where they have to spend their lives. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what one is greeted with when you visit Jamestown, Ishona after a rainy day. Usually buildings are submerged and children, like my newly found friend here called Kakra, meaning the last of a twin, and about 1.5-year-old daughter of a fisherman, are left to survive in their own way. And here she does so, patrolling barefooted in the stagnant water in which her parents' home is submerged, and drinking from it when she's thirsty. Look at that, the level of the water. It's the surface is filled with algae. It's very close to the room. Actually, if you want to enter into that room, this is how it takes for me to get into that room. And look at the algae here. Look at the water. It's very, very dirty. And that's the room. And somebody already is sleeping there. And my cameraman has been able to capture that. Somebody is sleeping there. That's a little baby sleeping there in that room. Well, apart from her sister inside, another kid is here. She's been going up and down. This baby is less than 2 years. She's actually 1 year and 6 months, and this is where she fetches water to drink. And look at, all my shoes are wet and filled with algae, and this is where this baby has to be fetching water to drink. I just saw her with a cup drinking water from here, and obviously she doesn't know what she's drinking. The health situation is in danger. The growth level of this baby, you can agree with me, would definitely be stunted. But that is how the situation is, and she has to be walking through this. She's actually barefooted. If you can see this, she is very barefooted, and one wonders the sort of diseases she can pick up from this particular situation. And so where are the families of these people?
Okay, they are going to beach to go hustle.
Hustle for what?
To find the fish to chop.
So what happens to these kids?
Okay, I think when rain they fall in yesterday, they don't know how to do.
So they go to the fish and leave their children here?
Yes, be so.
Well, that's what it is. They've all left for fishing. This is a kind of deplorable condition under which these people are sleeping. The roofs, the ceilings are all broken, dilapidated. Virtually everything is empty here. These are the candles. There are no lights here.
35 years building.
The building, I'm told, is about 35 years old. And this is where these people live, with no good condition whatsoever. The ceiling slates have also broken down. And you can imagine if it rains, everything comes directly into this particular building. Her parents have left her in the care of Kofi, a fisherman himself. Okay. You know, also
not nature them the mention for that, some of family so mention one
He's busily sowing his net for his next fishing and has his own worries to deal with.
Soon return about the bed, I ended up by into my on the mission of the day, man. And soon be here, I'll come up a day in Adam. And so I had them into me, till I call Aban Norman, and send it the hay you away. Now, number my the mayor and character, and see if you walk her. I'm not paying one man. In a book in soon was all now one out to a turtle. And soon to more, I mean,
every rain that falls just comes directly into this room where Mr. Kofi is sleeping. Again, they are virtually nothing. Look at this. This is where the bed Mr. Kofi has improvised for himself, a container that is very empty. And as soon as you take it, the bed is no longer a bed. He has this put on it like this under it, and then he sleeps on it. This is where our own fisherman has to lie. Just around the same area is this big old building that has never seen any renovation since it was put up. I'm being told by Yi and his friend, both youth leaders in the community, that about 100 people occupy this building.
I'm in Fiore. I'm a street here, because of Famina Economy. I'm a street here, because poor now, yeah, poor too.
Virtually all the roofs have broken down, leaving sleeping places open. What even used to be storerooms are housing households of about 10 people, including children.
I'm in fire,
Mothers risk the lives of their babies just for a sleeping place. If you get here, within the just few seconds, you start sweating. This is where all these kids are playing. There's a baby who is lying just here on this bed. Now, this is just a plank bed. It's wooden with the paper put on it. As I go in and around the building, I was able to attest that indeed the dilapidated structure is housing about 100 people, as every corner of the building has been invented for a sleeping place. It's a very huge structure. It was put up several years ago, but it's never been upgraded. Look at the top of it. There's no roofing. Like most slum communities I know in the world, from Accra to Lagos, Soweto to Mumbai, Rio de Janeiro to Mexico City, dwellers feel threatened of eviction, hence usually become agitated when attempts are being made to expose their plight. And I've always had my fair share of the agitations. However, someone needs to sacrifice to tell the story for the better livelihood of all in the future. This is another building which is still housing people in spite of its dangerous condition. Here, even the residents describe the building to me as death traps, yet are living in them. From my first step into the building, I was warned by residents to be mindful in order to avoid a disaster. The building is almost collapsed, and I have no doubt will do so in the very near future if action is not taken on it. Almost every moment, some part of it breaks down, from window to roofing, doors and corners, yet people are still living in it, with the reason that they have nowhere else to go.
When rain falls, this means I will say it's a trap. Because anytime you will see things will be falling from the building, and once upon a time there is a man living here. The thing, its roofing fell suddenly. The man was inside the room, and the whole fell.
Several of these buildings are scattered all over the beachfront of Accra. This one here has been turned into a school with no roofing and broken windows. So I question, why can't authorities identify such abandoned buildings and upgrade them to house a lot more people under a safer environment than it is at the moment?
It takes some political will and commitment and policy directions to get these things to happen. And like I said earlier, unfortunately in this country, we don't seem to be serious about it. And there's no policy, there's lack of policy direction, there's lack of political will. It runs across regimes, it transcends all regimes.
The World Bank President, Robert McMahon, who said once, if cities don't take steps to deal constructively with poverty, poverty may deal destructively with cities. A few years back, we were talking about the slums encroaching on the city. Right now, it's almost like the city encroaching on the slums, because the slums now form a much larger, part of the city than the planned part. And the more we wait, the worse it's going to become, because the cures are moving now into the well-planned areas.
We need policy instruments, policy and legal instruments to facilitate it. If you go to other jurisdictions, for example, they have Slum Development Authority, which is authority that has power to enter into agreements with interested parties.
That the slums are growing at the same rate that the cities are growing. The government needs to pay attention to the issue of slum dwellers, because this is where you've also got the whole problem of poverty in the cities. Poverty is not just limited to rural areas. You have to look at the problems of the slum dwellers, which are related also to health issues, which are related also to sanitation, which are related also to their access to a better education.
On the other hand, by concentrating on the physical squalor, one misses a little of the color and vitality of those places and the people who live there. The bustling nature, the crying, the loud sounds, the laughter, the chilling nightlife, and all. People living in objective squalor are sometimes the most house-proud, whether as in the places in my own experience in Teshi and Jamestown, or the houses I visited in Rio and Mexico. Simply concentrating on these places as an accumulation of tin shacks or mud huts, as the case may be, that are festering with disease is not to tell the whole story. Human beings can and do adapt to anything, even in these conditions, but as a development journalist with a clear understanding of climate change and its effects, I raise eyebrows on the future of communities such as these, especially when dilapidated structures are sited as close into the sea as it can be. Already rising waters and landslides are causing the sea to erode some lands and washing away communities here in Ghana, with Ketai in the Volta region and Upper and Lower Kops in the Western region as examples in sight. The possibility of seeing this community wiped out any time the water levels of the sea rises is just predictable. This is a fear even some of the residents themselves have expressed.
Na ya munsuru se nsu betimi afa.